If you're an empath, you're being hunted, not in a dramatic Hollywood kind of way, but in subtle daily transactions. In your workplace, in your relationships. In every moment someone sees your kindness and quietly thinks, I can use this. You know it. You felt it. That slow burning realization that your softness, your intuition, your instinct to nurture is not protected by the world. It's weaponized against you, and every time you try to just be yourself, something inside you bleeds a little more. So here's the uncomfortable truth. In a world that rewards manipulation and punishes sincerity, empaths who lack strategy become prey. But it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to become cold to protect your heart. You don't have to lie to outmaneuver the liars. You just have to understand the game you're in. And no one explains that game better than Machiavelli. Niccolo Machiavelli wasn't advocating evil. He was describing how power behaves in its rawest, most unfiltered form. He stripped the mask off leadership and influence. He didn't tell you to lie. He told you that others will, and if you don't understand that, you'll be at their mercy. He didn't write for narcissists, he wrote for realists. And that's where the empath often fails. They confuse goodness with helplessness. Most people misunderstand him. They hear the prince and picture some power-hungry tyrant licking blood off his fingers. But Machiavelli wasn't glorifying cruelty. He was diagnosing the system. He wrote in a world of deception, war, and political collapse. And he had the courage to name something most are too afraid to admit. The world does not reward virtue unless it is seen as strength. And that's where most empaths fail. They lead with love. They speak from the heart. They forgive too quickly, reveal too much, and expect others to meet them with the same depth and clarity. But the world doesn't meet you where you are. It meets you where it profits. And in a profit-driven, appearance-obsessed world, your honesty is often read as weakness, not wisdom. You're not too kind. You're just underarmed. Most empaths are not weak. They're wounded. And those wounds, the childhood pattern of pleasing to survive, sensing emotions before they're spoken, avoiding conflict to stay safe, create adults with open hearts but broken armor. In a world where Machiavellians study tactics and power plays like war manuals, the empath bleeds slowly, crushed not by evil, but by manipulation wrapped in charm. You are not here to lose, but you will, if you keep playing fair in a game where others cheat silently. This isn't about becoming cruel, it's about becoming conscious. Empaths often believe that feeling deeply is a kind of moral authority. They imagine that emotional sensitivity is a sign of depth, integrity, and trustworthiness. And so they walk into the world assuming that others feel as they do, that pain will soften people, that sincerity will inspire loyalty, that kindness will be mirrored. It's a beautiful belief, but it's also a trap, because the world doesn't run on empathy, it runs on incentives, on strategy, on power, covert, distributed, and often invisible. And here's the brutal truth. Your empathy doesn't protect you, it marks you. To a narcissist, your open heart is a manual. To a manipulator, your sensitivity is a weak spot. To a Machiavellian, your loyalty is a lever. In most environments, corporate, social, romantic, the rules are unspoken. You are not evaluated by your depth of feeling. You're evaluated by your utility, your alignment with group norms, your perceived threat level. Take a corporate office. The empath absorbs emotional labor. They smooth tension, listen to others' pain, cover for mistakes. The Machiavellian flatters the decision-makers, steals credit without remorse, and frames their rivals subtly, through suggestion, not accusation. Who gets promoted? Not the kindest, the most strategic. Empaths don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they don't know the rules of power, because they're playing a moral game inside a psychological battlefield. They think, if I do good, good will return to me. But the Machiavellian thinks, if I control the perception of good, I control the outcome. The empath believes psychology is about healing. The Machiavellian knows it's about control. And unless the empath evolves, learns the hidden grammar of social power, the rules beneath the masks, they will keep being used by people who study the system instead of feeling it. Let's get one thing straight. Machiavelli wasn't some dark lord of corruption. He wasn't preaching cruelty for cruelty's sake. He was describing how the world actually works, not how people wish it worked. In The Prince, he didn't say, be evil. He said, if you are good in a world that is not, you will be destroyed. A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything is bound to come to ruin among so many who are not good. To the idealist, this sounds cold, cynical, even monstrous. But to the experienced, especially those who've been burned, it's obvious. Machiavelli saw that sincerity in a society built on performance becomes a liability. That virtue without strategy is just emotional vulnerability in disguise. Empaths recoil at this because they want the world to be fair, but fairness is not the default setting of reality. It is a human invention, often upheld by those who have enough power to make it feel real. Machiavelli understood something most empaths don't. If you walk into a game where the rules are manipulation and optics, and you play with truth and transparency, you will not win. Not because truth is powerless, but because power, without protection, is prey. This doesn't mean you must become cruel, but it does mean you must stop being naive, because being good without understanding how evil operates is not goodness. It's helplessness dressed in virtue. One of the most fatal errors empaths make is this. They assume others feel like they do. They project their conscience, their hesitation, their guilt, their moral tension onto people who have none of it. You think, surely he didn't mean to hurt me. He's just wounded. She must be struggling deep down. No one manipulates for fun. If I just show more patience, they'll come around. But what if the person you're dealing with isn't lost? They're playing. What if their tears are not grief, but strategy? What if their flattery isn't appreciation, but seduction? What if their vulnerability is just a calculated performance to lower your guard? You're not in a world of mirrors. You're in a world of masks. Some people don't seek connection. They seek advantage. They study your needs, mirror your values, and weaponize your empathy. They say things like, "You're the only one who really sees me. You're so different from the others. I wish I could be as strong as you." They aren't complimenting you. They're disarming you. Because once you've been seen as the strong one, you're now responsible for their feelings, while they stay unaccountable for yours. Empaths get exploited not because they are weak, but because they project strength where there is manipulation. The Machiavellian doesn't feel guilt for using you. They feel clever. So stop asking, why would someone do this? Start asking, what does this person gain by doing this? Machiavellians don't read emotional cues to connect. They read them to calculate. They walk into a room and within minutes they know who is insecure, who needs approval, who will self-betray to be liked, who can be played. It's not magic. It's pattern recognition. And here's the playbook they use, the one most empaths never learn because they were too busy being nice. 1. Information is leverage. Never overshare without strategy. When you tell someone about your childhood, your insecurities, your deepest fears, you assume you're building intimacy, but some are just collecting ammunition. 2. People don't trust truth. They trust appearances. They want to feel safe, not be safe. So learn the optics. Learn how to appear calm under fire, confident when unsure, detached when wounded. Machiavellians manufacture confidence. You must learn to embody it. 3. Control perception, not outcome. Reality doesn't shape power, perception does. You don't need to be dominant. You need to look unshakable. Most people follow perceived strength, not actual integrity. 4. Never appeal to fairness, appeal to incentive. Don't say, but that's not fair. Say, here's why this benefits you. Power isn't swayed by morality, it's swayed by cost-benefit logic. 5. Emotions are tools, not gospel. Just because you feel doesn't mean you should act. Just because you care doesn't mean they deserve it. Detachment doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're no longer bleeding where you should be building boundaries. The empath interprets the narcissist's emotional volatility as woundedness, not warfare. So she tries to help, to love harder, to be enough to finally heal him. She thinks she's fixing him. In reality, he's rewriting her identity. Every outburst followed by apology. Every withdrawal followed by breadcrumbs. It's not chaos. It's conditioning. By the time she realizes the truth, she's already fragmented. She doubts her instincts. She apologizes for her pain. She tries to explain her value to someone who feeds on her self-doubt. And when she finally breaks, when she finds the strength to confront or leave, he detaches in seconds. You were too much. You're crazy. I never said we were anything. He moves on, unbothered. She stays, grieving not just the person but the illusion. The illusion that her empathy could save someone. The illusion that love would be returned. The illusion that pain was proof of depth. Compassion is not consent. Understanding is not surrender. Being kind to a manipulator is not noble. It's self-neglect. Empaths don't stay because they're weak. They stay because they believe people can be saved. The tragedy is, not everyone wants to be. Machiavelli never told you to become a monster. He told you that monsters exist, and if you don't understand them, you'll serve them. His teachings, if read properly, are not blueprints for cruelty. They're armor for the idealist, weapons for the kind, and maps for those who love deeply in a world that plays dirty. Because here's what he knew that most empaths ignore. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Translation for the modern empath: if people don't respect your boundaries, your love will not protect you. You don't need to manipulate, but you must learn to recognize manipulation. You don't need to dominate, but you must understand power dynamics. You don't need to suppress your kindness, but you must know when kindness is being converted into currency against you. Healing is not the end game, it's the initiation. Empaths must stop romanticizing their pain and start weaponizing their awareness. That doesn't mean becoming cold, it means becoming conscious. Here's what the new empath must master. Dark psychology, not to harm, but to recognize harm before it infiltrates. Boundaries that don't need explanation, only enforcement. Guilt-free no, because energy is finite, and some people are bottomless pits. The art of disengagement, because not every wound deserves a second chance to cut you. Self-trust over empathy, because your nervous system always knows before your mind catches up. Kindness without discernment is how empaths get devoured. Love without strategy is how they get hollowed out. Hope without limits is how they get broken again and again, and call it growth. You don't need to become like the narcissist, but you do need to become someone they can't manipulate. And that begins the moment you realize this. Your light is only healing if it doesn't blind you to danger. You were not made to be used. You were made to love without losing yourself. But to do that, you must evolve. You must hold your empathy in one hand and your discernment in the other. You must let your heart feel and let your spine guard the gate, because this world doesn't change because good people hope it will. It changes when good people learn to play the game without letting it poison them. You are allowed to love. You are allowed to care. But if you want to thrive, not just survive, you need to remember. Kindness without strategy is self-destruction disguised as virtue. When you fuse emotional intuition with psychological clarity, you become untouchable. You don't abandon your heart. You armor it. You don't stop loving. You start choosing who is worthy of access. And you begin to walk through the world seeing people as they are, not as you wish them to be. You hear the lie before it's spoken. You feel the manipulation mid-sentence. You recognize the wound behind the mask, and you no longer trade your sanity to prove your loyalty. Empathy with no awareness is martyrdom. Awareness with no empathy is psychopathy. The fusion is power. You don't just speak truth, you strategically deploy it. You don't just feel deeply, you guide others through what they're not yet able to feel. You don't just protect yourself, you become a mirror that reflects both light and shadow without flinching. Machiavelli taught how to appear strong. Empathy teaches how to be strong, from the inside out. And when those two meet, form and essence, strategy and soul, the empath becomes the leader everyone underestimated, until it was too late. If you're tired of being the one who always feels more, if you've been betrayed, overlooked, or drained by people who smiled as they took, then it's time to evolve. Don't kill your empathy. Sharpen it. Refine it. Surround it with discernment. The world doesn't need more soft hearts. It needs powerful ones. You were not born to be a doormat. You were born to be a mirror so sharp it cuts through lies. And a presence so grounded even manipulators get nervous around you. That's Machiavelli for empaths, and it's time.